Okay. Okay, so we are live.
All
Um,
right.
Welcome everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Hello.
Glad you're here to join us on another episode of Reality Check. I'm sure if you tuned in last week, you're familiar with Wren. She's a master's student at GMU, and today we have a special treat for you guys. We'll be joined by Dr. Yu. If you don't know, Dr. Yu is our faculty advisor at Patriot XR, and he's just a well of knowledge in virtual reality, and super happy to have him here today. Dr. Yu, did like was that good enough of an introduction? Was there any other accolades that you wanted me to mention?
Well, yeah, that's good enough. And you can call me Craig. You don't have to call me Dr. Yu. Yeah,
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
that's the only thing. Yeah, but anyway, yeah,
Okay,
let's
cool.
start. Yeah.
Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about VR and the future of the workplace. Um, since in the past few years that I've gotten to I've gotten into VR, I've noticed that it's got so many applications as far as being super useful for training, for onboarding for employees. I actually got a chance to work with one of Dr. Yu's PhD students, and for his research, he had created a simulation for employees in construction, and I was able to go into the environment and then kind of explore the world. And as I was exploring, there would be different hazards, different, and every time I'd run into a hazard, there'd be a pop up that said, like what kind of identify this hazard, and then there'd be like an electrical pole that was kind of going haywire, and that would be an electrical hazard, and then there'd be a vehicle going back and forth, and that'd be a different kind of hazard. But it's really interesting, and I think that it definitely has its applications. But yeah, that was my first kind of brush, like my first run in with VR in the workplace, and it was super interesting. What did I miss anything, Doctor Yu?
Yeah, so that's our project. I guess this summer, right? So you did a user study this summer. Yeah.
Yeah, it
So
was this
basically,
summer.
yeah, we want to create a virtual reality training experience for construction worker to improve their safety awareness. So obviously, you want to do it on in virtual reality more than on a real construction site, especially for newbies in construction, right? So in virtual reality, you won't get hurt. Not like unlike in the construction site, right? If you get hit by a truck, then
Yeah,
basically that's the end, right?
yeah,
So
for
you don't want
sure.
that to happen. But
I'm
for
glad
virtual
I didn't get
reality,
electrocuted for real. When I would run into
right,
those hazards.
exactly. So in virtual reality, we can bear those risks, and also it's much cheaper to do the training in virtual reality. Well, I would say after you do the training, you can go to the construction site and work the next day. But I think it significantly reduces the amount of training time you need in the real environment, right? So you can take it as like a pre-training. So maybe if you don't have this kind of virtual training, it takes you like a month for the real training on the construction site. With this, well, maybe it can, the real training can be shortened to, maybe a week or so. So there's still a very good benefit in terms of the courses and the time needed for the training.
I think it would do wonders to reduce the risk. For example, my mind goes to back when I was learning to drive, how that experience is split into two separate segments. On the one hand, you've got sitting in a classroom learning about like how to respond to different signs and what to do in different traffic patterns and stuff like that. And on the other hand, on the other side, you're actually behind the wheel, and there's an instructor who's there, and they have a special brake so there can be a little more safety. It seems to me like if we for jobs where it's harder to like put you into the middle of it during your training, it'd be tremendously useful to use VR, because it it's so much easier to boot up a simulation than to set up, you know, a new construction site just for the purpose of training you. And especially if there's high risk, it's you can learn so much more effectively by having more of those direct experiences. Like it's hard. I remember it was hard for me to take all those things I learned in the classroom for driving training and then actually develop the ability to rapidly recall them while on the road in this completely different context. Like they're learning hurdles for recalling information that you learned kind of by rote in actual application. And I feel like you can bypass a lot of that with professional training that uses VR.
Yeah, definitely. So talking about you mentioned driving training,
Yeah.
and actually we worked on the project exactly on that problem using
Oh.
virtual reality to help people to train to be better drivers. So maybe I can show you a video that we created for our previous work.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, so let me show you. All right. So you see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
see it.
showing the video. So this is exactly the training talked about. So basically, so we created like a virtual city, and there are events in the virtual city, like pedestrians crossing the street. You need to make turns, and so you see that like this is the training happening. So basically, we have a user using our system to drive in this city, and there is some craziness happening in the city. It's like, you know, something is like some people cross the street without looking at the road, and you have to stop at the right time not to hit the person. So so in this experience, one interesting thing is we use the eye tracking virtual reality headset. So basically, we can track where the driver is paying attention to during the training, and that is important, right? So I remember when I was learning driving in California, my coach sit next to me, and he kept asking me to, hey, you should look at that mirror before you make a turn, right? And you should, you know, always look around and see if there are people crossing the street, and so on. So by using like the eye tracking VR headset, basically we can have our system taking the role as a virtual coach to keep track of the driver's behaviors and, you know, pop up reminders if the person is not doing a good job. So this is something we have done. So yeah, so definitely, I mean, for driving training, you know, virtual reality is a very good vehicle for doing that.
What were the inputs of the person undergoing the training? Like, what sorts of controls did they have?
What kind of control? Oh, yeah. That's a great question. So this shows the control. So
Okay,
basically,
you've got a full steering wheel and pedals too?
Well, so this screen is for the, you know, it's for the operator to see what's going on in the virtual experience. But this is the user, so she's wearing the fourth eye tracking VR headset, and we also bought the driving controller from Logitech. So basically, yeah, you're right. So it has a pedal, it has a wheel, and so on. So you can simulate a very realistic driving experience.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, we want to make it as realistic as possible. That's why.
I really wish I'd had this when I was learning to drive. Like I was so like nervous going out on the road and worried that, oh God, I have barely any training. Am I gonna get myself killed?
This is way better than, you know, just like going through a module or like going through some manual for sure.
This would do so much to like build confidence and like provide additional training.
Yeah, definitely. I think most people learn it the hard way. Like, you know, you have a coach sitting next to you, keep blaming you. Oh, don't do this, don't do that. You know, look at that. Okay, how do you, you know, how do you control your car? Remember, something like that.
Yeah. I think this would be like kind of like a good precursor to the behind the wheel part, because in Virginia you have to take the test and then you have behind the wheel.
Yep.
I think this would definitely be. I don't know, like if you replace the test or this is something you do after you've finished the test, but I think like it's definitely good in terms of like helping you build those habits in terms of like what to check with your eyes before you get into that actual actual environment.
Yep. And one good thing is also about the safety, of course. So like, even if you don't have a coach, if you have the VR setup at home, you can still practice by yourself. So there's another benefit. And actually, in this research work, in addition to creating the simulation, we also have something called the personalized training. So basically, you can see like an optimization is going on to sample some good driving path for you to practice. So based on your skill, for example, if I'm really bad at making turns, then the program will generate a path that involves a lot of turns in order to reinforce your skills. So basically, when I was working on this, I was thinking about how my coach taught me to drive, and basically I incorporate all those elements I can think about into this program. So interesting.
Yeah.
You when so just when so where do you guys learn to drive?
I learned in a
I
parking lot with my dad.
In the parking lot?
Yeah.
With your dad?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
yeah,
I started in a parking lot with my mom, and
yeah.
then like a little bit of driving in like residential, just like little suburbs,
Mm-hmm.
away from main roads, just like the thin 25-mile-an-hour roads that are flanked by houses on either side. And then I think it was like driving school where with the lectures and going out on the open roads with an instructor.
Yeah, I can tell you. So I learned to drive many years ago, like 10 years ago, because I'm from Hong Kong. Yes,
Mhm.
Hong Kong. So Hong Kong is a very crowded city. It's kind of like New York City. So people don't always drive in the city
Yeah.
Right.
because it's too crowded. It's just too busy. So I learned to drive like 10 years ago, and I learned it in Palo Alto, in California. Yeah. So the first time I learned it, the first lesson was crazy. So my coach, I was in Stanford as a visiting scholar at that time, and the coach, he just asked me to drive directly from a parking lot to Stanford. So it was like 15 minutes drive. And that's the first time I touched the wheel. So I have no idea how everything works. And he just asked me, just go, just go. And well, I thought, oh, are you crazy? I didn't even
Zero
know
to
how
100.
to push the pedal and how to use the wheel. How could I
Yeah.
drive like 15 minutes back to
That's
school with all the real traffic? So
that-
with all the real traffic. So well, but then I'm grateful that he told me to do that because I understand. He has taught hundreds of students and he understands the process. So basically, he wants me to get a immersive experience of how it's like
yeah.
operating the car. It's kind of like, the best way, to learn to swim is to jump into the water and try to struggle, try to feel the water. So your body will pick up, will pick up very quickly how you may control yourself in order to survive in the situation. So, well, why do I talk about that? Because I think in the virtual reality, we may be able to induce similar kind of training experience, right? So you want the person to immerse in a very realistic environment so that his body can learn really how to operate in that environment. So I'm very thankful for my coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with
But
VR,
that's
you can
essentially what you'd be getting in a virtual environment.
yeah
Yeah,
without
exactly.
the incredible risk of that training style in the real world.
Yeah, it was quite risky. Well, sometimes I made some crazy, mistakes. Like I forgot to to stop and so on. But the coach always has a break at his
Yeah.
side, so he can break for me. So,
Right.
but for virtual reality, we can do crazy things without any potential risk. So that's
Yeah.
a benefit.
Yeah. What other applications have you seen in terms of like VR training that's made you go like, oh wow, this is gonna be mainstream in the not so distant future?
Mm, yeah, so there are actually a lot of things going on. I mean, I think basically every industry is thinking about how to use virtual reality for training. So we have talked about a lot of crazy, risky stuff, but there are some situations that are more mild. For example, I know that Walmart, they have uh, thousands of virtual reality headsets deployed for training their new employees. I can pull up a piece of news some years ago about that. So basically, they are training, they train their employees how to operate the store during some events like Black Friday, during like the Black Friday sales when there are a lot of customers coming in and looking for for their things, and then they have a lot of questions and so on. So how can you handle that situation? So Walmart is really using that as a training vehicle. Yeah.
Okay.
So that, of course, it's not risky, but
Yeah.
so to them, the major reason to use that is the scalability of the training and also the low cost of the training compared to you need a real code to change a person. Yeah.
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 Okay. And that just kind of got me thinking, like I kind of like put on my like data scientist hat on. And do you think ML would have like would it be beneficial to apply any ML methods to
Mm-hmm.
these environments to kind of create like a more realistic like for Walmart, for example, like I think like one of the arguments that could be made is that the environment would be without ML, like it would be a little bit scripted.
Yep.
So if you add, do you see any applications for ML in that to create a more realistic conversation, or maybe not in Walmart, but another kind of training environment?
Yeah. Well, definitely. So, I think that's really the next step of developing the VR training is to use AI or machine learning techniques to analyze the behaviors of the trainee during the training process, so as to judge whether the person is really familiar with the skill that we want the person to get familiar with. So
Right.
well, right now we are using human to judge, right? So you have a real coach sitting next to you and he looks at you and see your behavior. But what if we have the program that can automatically track the person's skills and also evaluate whether the person is qualified for doing a certain task? I think that would be a big step ahead. Yeah.
And using that, you could also narrow down the training topics in like successive training sessions for that same trainee,
Yep.
so that you're
Yeah.
focusing just on the spots where they need improvement, and
Yep.
Very
you're
true.
not like wasting time rehashing like things that they're already strong with.
Yeah.
Kind of like studying for a test.
Yeah. Another example may be for sports training, let's say. So you have different people playing the sport, let's say playing the basketball, right?
Hmm.
And if you let them to use virtual reality and do some poses and you track their poses, maybe you can compare their performance and you can quantitatively analyze, hey, why this guy is better than the other guy? What's the difference between them? And then you may use AI to suggest what is the training program that we should have on the person in order to improve the person's skill. So that's another thing we can do.
Yeah.
So yes, I think there are a lot of opportunities. Using really combining the VR and the machine learning and AI. Yes.
Yeah. And maybe like if someone's a little bit more seasoned, or like a more senior employee, and they're kind
Yep.
of used to the training environments, maybe it could add I guess an element of, I guess the unexpected or like a surprise element. because it kind of reminds me of what Tesla's doing with their autonomous vehicles in terms
Mm-hmm.
of I saw this video. It was like a 2 minute paper on what basically like kind of condensing what they were presenting at their latest conference and how they were creating virtual environments and then using the data from those virtual environments to train their cars to be able to react to more unexpected situations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you mentioned a very good point. The unexpected situation is another key point. I mean, the key benefit of using VR training, like unexpected situation, like accident, right? So you can always have accident simulator in the real world because it's dangerous and also it's costly and so on. But then you can always create some virtual accident in virtual reality, and you can see how you can train people to cope with those situations, right? So like, oh, if there's an accident in the highway, so how should you control your car in order to avoid damage, right? So that's something you can do repeatedly in virtual reality, but not in the real world.
Hmm.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah. So Stephen, you are doing your masters. I think you are doing some AI. Some you are studying AI and doing research related to AI.
yeah. I'm in a machine learning program, and
Mm-hmm.
my research is in reinforcement learning.
Yeah. So have you thought about maybe integrating some of the techniques from AI into virtual reality?
I've definitely thought about it. I would like to get my skills in VR a little bit more up to scratch before I attempt that. But
Yeah.
I think the reason why I brought that point up of being able to predict those situations is because I was doing research into RL into reinforcement learning,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that one of the areas of like what I'm going to be doing for my research is we're going to be creating a program where we you're going to be able to input a video, maybe let's say in English, and that program is going to be able to translate it into another language, say Arabic, but not only translate, not as in uh, NLP, but actual street speech translation, like dubbing the video in English in Arabic.
Mm.
The real challenge is being able to not only change the audio, but to be able to change the movements, uh, the mouth movements of the person speaking,
Mm-hmm.
so that it would match the Arabic translation. And one of the biggest issues with that is the timing of what they're saying, because in a video, like the if you say something in English, that same statement's not going to take as long, or might take even longer in another language.
Mm-hmm.
So we would be using reinforcement learning to be able to predict the different frames and be able to match the the dubbing of the lips of the character's lips.
Mm.
So being able just to predict the next part of the conversation, and based on like the training data, that kind of gave me some thought into how that could be applied into training in VR.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Another would another would another goal be to match like sentiment of the new like mouth shape? So you can say the same words with different expressions,
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh,
like maybe you're smiling, or maybe you're frowning, or maybe your
yeah.
like lips are drawn together in like an expression of disgust or something. Would you is it also um is it also in your sights at the moment to like replicate that, like to put that into the reconstruction? Like that's a whole nother animal, it seems. But just
Yeah, I
curious.
mean yeah, you bring up that's a really good point, actually, just being able to not only predict how the mouth moves, but like how the words are formed based on the certain sentiment. And
Yeah.
I definitely think that's something thing to consider. Although I think that's something that we're going to consider in a future work, but definitely something to consider.
Yeah, and that actually has something to do with both AI and virtual reality. So imagine if you have your algorithms working, then you can use that to drive some virtual characters to react very realistically to the users. So basically, nowadays the virtual characters we see, they are like dummies, right? So they don't have much expression. They may have some expression which is prescript, but you know it's not very realistic. It's not as natural and dynamic as the real expressions real humans have. So if we can incorporate some of the techniques that you create into those virtual agents, we will have much better, virtual reality experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That definitely be another next step.
Yeah. So yeah, that's that's also AI, of course. So yeah, I think it's really interesting to learn how to try to use AI to capture how humans interact with each other, right?
Right.
So like, okay, so like let's say you are a I just make a new friend, right, in the virtual space. So I mean, like let's say in the real world, I just make a new friend. So we talk to each other. So how would our expressions be in the interaction? What is our tone, and what is the relationship between our the content of our speech and our tone and so on. So
Yeah.
if we can capture all these, subtle relationships using AI or machine learning models, and then use those as the model for driving virtual characters for interacting with humans, I think that would be very powerful.
And I don't think it's that far away. I mean, I think it's just a matter of being able to, create an algorithm that's trained on that different type of like expression data, and then
Yep.
As you're talking, maybe the algorithm classifies,
Yes.
your expression as, like positive sentiment, negative sentiment, or what have you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yep. So you know what? Like we have something like the metaverse from by Facebook, right? So and
Yeah.
other social VR spaces.
Yeah.
I think in the future, those companies will be able to build a lot of data of how humans interact with each other, because
Socially.
the VR device they have the tracking, right? Has a facial expression tracking, eye tracking, the voice and everything. So basically, with that data, they will be able to use some, like machine learning, deep learning techniques to capture all these relationships so as to power some virtual characters.
Yeah.
To speak in a very human-like way.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I saw a map of that metaverse, and it's already it's gonna happen, and it's
Yeah,
gonna
it's
be
gonna
big.
happen.
'Cause I saw the map, and there it just was filled with different sponsors.
Yeah.
Like all these big companies just renting space in the metaverse. I think it's already like pretty much like I think it's a $2-3 billion industry already, and I think it's just gonna get bigger.
Yeah. So you guys know about like the Turing test? Have you heard of the Turing test?
I've heard of
Yeah.
it. Yes.
Yeah, Turing test basically means if you can create an AI that is indistinguishable from a human, then we have passed the Turing test. Maybe this metaverse thing with the VR tracking and the AI learning about human interaction will be the way to solve the Turing test problem. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just getting so much data.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
your ML methods or your AI is just gonna it's like, have you seen the movie Free Guy?
No.
No, not
Yeah,
really. What's it about?
it's a new movie. It's really good. I would definitely recommend it. But
Yeah.
it's about it's the setting. The main setting is in the metaverse, and there's it's a game. So, and in the game there's an NPC, a non-playable character that
Uh-huh.
that was built like with an AI algorithm, and he slowly learns that he slowly becomes aware of his surroundings and realizes that he is part of a metaverse of a video game, and then the movie just continues from there, and it's just him like just just living his life because now he doesn't follow the same script anymore. But I think like that the point you just made kind of reminded me of that movie. I think we're definitely a long ways away from that, but it's just really cool seeing like the possibility of AI.
What's the name of the movie again?
A Free Guy.
Free Guy.
Yeah.
So basically, in the future, in the metaverse, you may talk to a person for an hour, and then finally you find out actually that person is an AI.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, it looks too realistic that you can't really distinguish. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, but I think we are definitely moving towards that direction. I guess Facebook may have some plans in their companies to create this kind of thing, and that's why they want to build this platform to collect lots of data. Of course, there are other concerns like privacy and so, but that's another topic.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And actually going back into the topic of VR in the workplace, I remember you had shown us a paper that you had
Mhm.
worked with, a review paper.
Yes.
And it just like spells out all the different applications that you've seen. Did you want to just touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Let me show you on my screen. Let's see. Okay, let me try. Okay.
Are you gonna go see Free Guy?
I'm going to now.
Yeah.
Well,
Is it a new movie?
once it's available, not in movie theaters. That is.
Oh, okay. Free Guy.
Still steering clear of them.
So you see my screen?
Yeah.
All right. So yeah. I think if you are into this topic, it's good to have a look of our paper because it's a very good review of the for VR skill training. So we didn't restrict ourselves to workforce training. So the training could be other types of training too, like sports training or military training and so on. So yeah, you can see we touch a lot of different applications. Like so this one training people to climb the wall, and by the way, these are the research projects of other research groups in the community. So we just did a review of of what's happening in the community. So yeah, so paramedics. So like you can have a team of people wearing the headset. I guess they are sent to some disaster situation, and they are collaborating to help a person. Military training, vehicle control training. This one, yeah, so you can see like these are like they're experiencing like a fire disaster scene, and they learn how to rescue a kid out of the building. So let me see if there's anything particularly interesting.
That in itself was pretty interesting.
Yeah, so this one, you may have heard of this. So the cave. So this is not really the virtual reality headset model. So for the cave, you have a room where the projectors are attached to the wall. So basically, you see you feel like you are in a room of within another world, right? So the walls are showing the images of another world, and that will give you a very immersive experience without using the virtual reality headset. So this kind of model is very common in like military training or architectural design and so on.
So it's essentially still an immersive environment. You just don't have to put on a headset.
Yeah, yeah. So if I type it here, so cave VR, you see like this, like this, like this.
Okay.
So yeah, you feel like you're in a basically you're like in a room showing a different world. Yeah. But this one is expensive, of course, much more expensive than a headset. You
Right.
need to have a lot of projectors, and also there is a tracking, like a tracking system in the room, so that whenever you move, the system knows about it, and then it shows you the correct view of the environment. So this is a case. Maybe we can skip this. So this one, so we also, some people also think about the haptic side. So like if you are learning to shoot in the virtual environment, then you need to provide the user with like a fabricated model of a gun, so that the person can really feel it, right? Can really feel the machine and the trigger and so on, so that the person can pick up the skills with his muscles. Right? So this is our work on the driving training. I already talked about that. I think this is some kind of like landing control training. Again, so why do we want to do this? Because it's much more low risk and much cheaper to do the training this way. Wheelchair training. So it is actually a project of our group. So basically, like we have this kind of wheelchair training program that can train a person to use the wheelchair in virtual reality. Like if someone just experienced an accident and he needs to use a wheelchair, so instead of letting the person do the training in the real world immediately, we can let him go through some virtual simulation first. One good thing about this is the training is really done on the wheelchair. So basically, we attach some tracker on the wheels of the wheelchair, so that when the person pushes the wheels, the tracker can detect that, and that will control the virtual wheelchair to move around. So we have that. Actually, we have that in the robotics lab in the engineering building. So if you want to try that, you can talk to us, and we will give you a demo. What is this? I guess this one is someone learning to operate the power line and maintain the power line. So you see he's picking up the rod, so that he really has a haptic feedback also. Like he feels like he is really operating a real equipment to maintain the power line. So I would say this kind of haptic feedback or devices are very useful for the training. Yeah, I think that's pretty much the examples that we covered in paper. Of course, we have some other examples, but these are the major examples.
Okay. And what was the paper called?
Oh, so that's called a review on virtual reality skill training. So you can go to my website and you can see the paper there.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, just type GMU and you will see my website, and you will find this paper. Yeah,
it was super interesting just getting to see like a lot of applications that I didn't think about before of how we could apply this to training.
Yeah, exactly. So my website, if you go GMU, you will see, and if you go to our research page, you will see a lot of projects here, and most of the projects have a video that shows a demo of the project. So feel free to check it out, and if you have any questions, just let me know, and I'm happy to tell you more about our project.
Yeah, for sure. And that was gonna be my next point. I was gonna ask. So like we're pretty much out of time, but I was gonna ask like if there was anything you wanted the audience to know about, like other than this. But I guess you just answered my question.
Yeah. So yeah, basically, there are so many opportunities in virtual reality, combining training and education. So yeah, try to think out of the box and think about what you can do in this new medium. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited for what the future holds.
Yeah, and we are excited to learn more about you in the future. Like, what is your study about, and have you worked on some interesting projects as your master program? So let us know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
At some point, we could do a role reversal, and you could be the guest speaker.
No.
Yeah, of course.
Greg and I could be hosts.
Yeah,
that'd be nice. I do love hearing myself talk. So
yeah. I wonder if you can do some live streaming too. Like you walk around the campus, and you can let us see what it's like there.
I could definitely do that. I was also thinking. So I'm there's a VR there's like a VR arcade. It's not really an arcade, but there's like a laser tag version like of VR that's in one of the malls here. It's in all the way in Dubai, but a couple of friends and I were really interested in that. But I'll probably give a little stream when that happens.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, if you guys want to see the campus, we can do that too. Very small
Yeah.
campus though. It's going to be a pretty short episode. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for joining, Craig. Thanks again, Ren.
Thank you. Yeah.
But yeah,
Thank you,
thanks
guys.
to all of you for joining us again. Be sure to smash that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.
See you.
Bye,
Right.
everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.